seleccionan español. Si están conectados con su teléfono inteligente, hacen clic donde dice más en la parte de abajo de su pantalla, luego seleccionan interpretación de idiomas y por último seleccionan español. Van a poder participar por medio del chat y por medio del QIA, la función abajo. Ahí pueden hacer preguntas o comentar, ya sea en inglés o en español, como ustedes prefieran. El webinario sí va a ser en inglés, entonces si necesitan apoyo con la interpretación, pueden unirse a un canal de idioma. Let me remind also the panelists to not speak too fast so that we can do a good job interpreting and to speak one person at a time. Un recordatorio de los panelistas que por favor no hablen demasiado rápido para que podamos hacer un buen trabajo interpretando y que hable una persona a la vez. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Ron. Okay, is my sound better now? Yay. Okay, so sorry about that, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to just take the next few minutes as people come in to remind you of a few things. So this is a webinar style, so only the speakers will have video and mic access, but we would love for you all to be as engaged as possible or as you'd like. We'd love to hear any thoughts, feelings, things that resonate with you. So feel free to use the chat feature in whatever way you'd like. You can use the Q&A function to ask any questions, and we're hoping to get to Q&A at the end. I do just want to remind people of some community agreements that we're going to have up on the screen shortly. While it is an online panel, we just ask people to remember, we're all coming to this space from different perspectives and experiences, and to be willing to listen and learn and respect people's experiences and what they have to share. So again, if you can just be mindful of that and review the agreements as well, that would be really great. And then for accessibility, just a reminder that Zoom does allow for closed captioning. You can click that on the bottom of your Zoom toolbar, either under the more with the 3 dots under that icon. It should have closed captioning. And like Ron explained, there is Spanish interpretation. We want and hope that everyone here can participate in the language that feels important and comfortable for them. To access interpretation, if you're using a computer, you can click on the little globe on the toolbar and select Spanish, just like the slides also had indicated. And if you're on a phone, you can click the 3 dots under more, select language interpretation, and then select Spanish. If there's anything that you need during the webinar, please feel free to message any of the hosts or Anna, who will be sharing with us any accessibility needs that come up for folks. And we hope that we can be able to support you throughout the panel. And again, this is part of a webinar series. So if there is anything that is not working or you feel like could be better, please share with us. We're all just trying to make this the best possible for all of you and an amazing experience where we can all learn and grow and think more about abolition and family policing and breaking silos. I am going to turn it over now to Mickey from Elephant Circle, who's going to share with us how their amazing family policing activity guide was created and how to use it during the webinar.
Thank you so much, Nudan. Hello, everyone. It's so incredible to be here with you all. I'm seeing the attendee numbers go up, and we are officially at over 100 people who are here for our first webinar of this series. Like Nudan said, my name is Mickey. I use she and her pronouns, and I am the Director of Movement Strategy at Elephant Circle, one of the partners who is leading this work. And we wanted to create a bold invitation for people to be present, to practice curiosity, and to harness our deep connection in this space. And so even though this is a webinar series, we are offering up an activity guide and play space via Canva. This is an optional space for you to tap into throughout the session, to remember to breathe, to take notes, to color, and an opportunity for us to call in the multiple intelligences and forms of brilliance that are present in our movement and are definitely present in this attendee gathering today. So Miriam just dropped the Canva play space here in the chat. If you open that up, you can access it on phone or on desktop. And again, this is completely optional space if you want to participate in that space, but the Canva is not accessible for you. You can also message me at any point in the webinar and I can help get that over to you. And this will be something that lives on beyond our space today. In addition to some coloring resources, invitation to breath, we for us to share resources, readings, other events that we want to harness inside of our community to continue to break these silos in our movements and in our work. It would be, right now, we're just going to give you a little preview of what the Canva looks like so that when you click that link, you can see, or if you're not convinced yet that you want to show up in the play space, that you can also take a look. So going to pass it to Desiree, who's supporting me in sharing screen so that you all can take a look into this invitation. This is a coloring page, which you can also print or access after the event. Please use it in your community spaces, print it out and take some time to color. If printing is not something that's accessible for you, we also found 2 free apps where people are able to color or just process. If you're feeling moved to pull a card, we have some cards here for you to pull with their corresponding meetings. And again, if this is something that feels good for you throughout the space, we'd love for you to tell us what's landing and how you're receiving the invitation to presence. Like I said, we have some guiding questions here and some post-its, really trying to simulate what it's like to gather in person and for us to have many different ways that we're showing up. And then this is second to last final slide, a space for us to continue to build outside of this space with events, readings, or other things that you want to see added to our Sessions Liberation Library. Thank you all so much. Excited to see you in the play space.
Thank you so much, Mickey, and thank you so much all for joining. We can get started if everyone's ready to do so. And again, please feel free to use the play space, reflect on anything that's shared, whether it's in the chat. And again, the Q&A function on Zoom is available and we'll be answering some questions at the end. Hopefully we'll have plenty of time for discussion. So again, my name is Nuran. I'm Senior Helpline Counsel with If When How. I'm really excited to be in this space with you all about 6 months after our in-person Breaking Silos symposium that took place at Berkeley. Many of you joined us in person in California just a few months ago to have this conversation, but many of you didn't, and we're so excited that you're joining us to continue this conversation so we can continue to break silos together and think more about all the ways that family policing and reproductive justice are essential conversations that must be something that we continue to talk about. So this webinar series is hosted by If When How, Movement for Family Power, Center on Reproductive Rights and Justice at Berkeley Law and Elephant Circle. So the panel, we're going to spend some time during this panel speaking and hearing from our lovely panelists about believing and dreaming of a world free of family separation and family policing. And we know that this dream requires work, and it has always required work, whether it's family separation in our communities or in our own homes or at the border. We're here because we want to do the work to break the silos that do exist in reproductive justice spaces. We know that the founders of the reproductive justice movement had family policing and family separation as a core tenet of the reproductive justice rights movement. But we're still here having this conversation, and I really want us to reflect on why we're still having this conversation. We'll hear from our dedicated panelists about what it means to center conversations around the family policing system, how we must hold ourselves accountable as we fight for abolition, and have honest conversations about whether or not we are standing in the way of liberation. The goal for the webinar today is to think deeply about the goal towards abolishing the family policing system, how we as members, community members, advocates, lawyers, providers, and birth workers can reflect on our relationship to abolition and participate in ways to make abolition a reality. Before we begin hearing from our panelists, I'd love for you all to think about your own relationship to abolition and what abolition looks like to you. We'd love to have you share some of those thoughts in the chat and reflect on it throughout our conversation. So before we begin, if you want to start thinking about that, having those conversations, and then we'll hear from our panelists. So whenever we're ready, I'd love to hear from whoever would like to start. The question for the panelists is if they can just share a little bit about themselves and describe the reproductive justice and political landscape that they're organizing within and their own personal relationship to abolition.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and afternoon and evening, wherever you're at. My name is MJ, and I'd like to start off by saying my lens is coming from the place of protecting Black people, Black lives, my family, my community, my people. The reason why I say lens is because our lens is far more greater and important than our degrees, than our titles, than any letters behind our names. When we talk about our lens, we're looking at, it tells people what you see, what you center, and also who you are accountable for. So I'd like to start off by just grounding in that, because that will give people more of an understanding as to what my lens is and why it looks the way it does. So when we are protecting Black families, Black lives, Black humanity, we are protecting humanity itself. So I'll go into the question, right? So I'll give you the actual answer. What does abolition what does it mean to abolish? And what is my relationship with abolitionists? And to abolish means to sacrifice. When there are industries that are put in place, they are there to govern, they are there to police, they are there to sacrifice others, usually those that are the most vulnerable people. But when we look to abolish these industries that make money, we are looking to sacrifice our comfort in order to put humanity first. So my relationship with this term is my identity. Because of being a Black, Indigenous, Muslim, my job is to look at the next generation and to have respect for my ancestors that made sacrifices of themselves for me to be here. I'll stop right there.
Thank you so much. Happy to have whoever, Justice, Mashai, or Lori share, whatever feels good for you all.
I'll go ahead and go. Hi, everybody. My name is Justice. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm the founder and director of Real Justice Network. Ooh, it's a big question about abolition. I think a lot of people think they know what it is until you really see it and you're like, ah. I come to this space as a directly impacted person, as somebody who has survived the family policing system, as somebody who has escaped incarceration because I wanted to protect my family. And so when I think about just the position that I was in personally and my relationship to abolition, and historically, the change that we, and when I say we, I mean we, Black people in particular, have been in this country, then it is my duty, honestly, to fight. It is my duty to dismantle this system that that we are told helps us when all it has done is created harm. And for those of us who have battled with um, reaching out to those systems and realizing that there is no care there for us. There is no answer there for us. It then lets us know that we must be in the position to create the spaces of safety that we need. And so we have to dismantle as we build what we need. And I'm a social justice doula. So I coined that term because I am a doula, because I am in the practice of caring for families in that very critical time of birth and bringing life. And that means I've married those skills with my skills as an organizer to look at my community through a certain lens and recognizing the generational trauma that Black and Brown and Indigenous communities have experienced at the hands of the state, first and foremost, and caring for them just as I would a birthing family, a newborn baby, and then going from there. I'll share much more as we go along, but thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Mashe Small, and I go by she and her pronouns. I would say that the lens of me being interacting with the family policing system is a directly impacted mother who has had her children stripped away from her, and that's where I kind of organize around having directly impacted, had my children stripped away from me, and seeing other families who've been through it, who have looked just like me, been going through the same thing as me, and not wanting families to continue to have that cycle continue within their lives, within their children's lives. And it's crazy because we don't think of it as our children reliving the trauma that we go through as a child, like how we just experience things. And I just want to end it all. That's where my abolition work comes from. So just having those direct contacts with the state, and really just wanting to end it and just not allow children to continue to go forward. So I am a doula as well, and I am a mental health support person, basically a mental health first aider for youth and adults. So I do allow myself to be able to share my story and use that as a way to amplify and uplift the community, and allow them to see their power and reclaim what is within that the family policing system tends to strip away, because they see that light within us.
My name is Lori Bertram Roberts. I'm the executive director and co-founder of the Mississippi Reproductive Freedom Fund. We are an organization based in Mississippi, obviously, that does reproductive justice work, including around abortion, sex ed, and family policing. And one of the reasons that we do the work around family policing is because I was directly impacted by family policing. I was a kinship foster care kid. I had the people, as we call them, show up at my house in my worst, like during my worst moment of illness. So as a disabled person, I'm definitely concerned about family policing, how it impacts the lives of Black disabled folk, and how we are tend to be even more likely to be targets of them separating our families. So yeah, that's where I come from. Like, I really honestly started researching abolition and the family policing system to save my own family, to save ourselves, because nobody was coming to save me. And one of the reasons that we do the work that we do within the Mississippi Reproductive Freedom Fund, which is like we will help people get material things so that they can avoid having the system take their children, is because had it not been for a group from my church that came and cleaned my house, set everything back up for me, I would have lost my children. And no one should go through that when the state has the power to provide all of those services and chooses not to. I'll just end there.
Thank you all so much. I shared a little bit earlier that the reproductive justice movement and the founders had centered family policing as part of that conversation. And we ask ourselves a lot of the time, why are we continuing to have this conversation? Why is the family policing system not central in reproductive justice spaces? And why are we continuously asking or demanding that it be part of that? So I'd love to hear a little bit from you all about how you understand and practice reproductive justice, and what you believe must be included in the conversation, and also maybe why it's continuing to not be included despite, that goal and the focus of family separation as part of the movement.
I feel like one of the biggest challenges is that white women of privilege tend to choose the way that we decide to deal with stuff, even inside reproductive justice, which is Black woman led, Black woman founded, because guess who funds us? They fund what they want to fund, right? So like getting funding for abortion is easier than getting funding to fight family policing. And I think part of that is just laziness. It's like people know, oh, someone has a pregnancy crisis, like, okay, that's easy to fix. But to build a system that, or to build something that replaces the current system we have is way more work. It's way more work. It's way more visioning. And I don't think a lot of people are ready for that. They want something that they can send a little check to, or they can, write a little note, or they can go to the voting booth and feel good about. And that's not what we're doing right now. We're making sure that every tenet of RJ is recognized in our work. At least that's what we do. And I'm quite sure others do as well.
I would like to add on that to Lori. I did not necessarily bridge that connection from the very beginning of me being in this industry. However, you make me think about what I've said to many people, which is the lowest morality sits in the identity of whiteness. And whiteness is not a culture, right? So we have European Americans and they can have culture, but whiteness is not a culture. It is a construct. It is built to dominate, to deconstruct, and it is in denial. So when you have this industry, because there are no systems in place without money and business being involved, right? These aren't systems. We are given terminology to utilize because it continues to uphold, I'm going to say foolery and fuckery, right? It upholds it. So we are working within this industry. We are making money off of hurting others. So when I say the lowest morality sits within identity of whiteness, it goes back to what Ms. Lori said, which is we know to follow Black women that actually were the ones that were the leaders in reproductive justice because we had to, right? So when we are looking at true leadership and following, even if you are a European American, you are to follow the playbook of Black women. And if that's not being followed, then that means you're not leading anyone towards liberation. You are continuing to bring in these sheeps in this actual slaughterhouse. So now that we know what it is and we can name what it is, I always say just simply, if a Black woman is not leading you, you are not going towards liberation, even if that's Black literature. That is the only way that we are going to get there. So thank you, Lori, for allowing me to hop on that answer, because I completely agree with you. Completely agree.
And just to add a little bit more there, for people to really recognize and do what's necessary in this industry, as MJ just said, that means that they would have to recognize their own white supremacy. They would have to give up what they perceive to be power, and it's not really power because it doesn't really help them, but they don't know that. And really listen to, as we continue to say, and take direction from Black and Indigenous people. And that has been the hardest thing for people in this space to do. We just saw this with the fall of Roe. I'm gonna tell you, every white woman a part of our group's reproductive rights lost their damn minds. Why? Because the courts have been their daddy for the last 50 fucking years. And we knew that the courts could do nothing for us. It has always failed us. It has told us we weren't even human. And so we knew that reproductive justice was where it was at the entire time. And many of us in this movement have been trying to push people into this space and telling them, your way is not going to get us to liberation. It wasn't until it got pulled from under them that they, oh my, and now what we are seeing is a co-opting of, a Columbusing of, RJ, really, really. And it's disrespectful, but it is a part of the problem. It is, I will do everything, including harm myself, just so I don't have to listen to you. We saw it with this election, huh? And what do we have? People were willing to do that and have that just so they didn't have to listen to a Black woman. So that's a part of the problem. And what do we need? We need accountability, right? Fidelity. Like remembering who you are here for. And I say fidelity in all the work that we do, because there are a lot of things that some of us are pushing, and the devil is in the details of those. Some of us who are looking for help with doula reimbursements, or even things around criminalization of folks. You look in there and you're sacrificing some of your siblings to save a few. That's not reproductive justice. And so us snatching this movement back from those who dare, say, this is mine more than it is yours, right? Because that's what we're hearing now. We're seeing people actually fundraise on reproductive justice who just last year wouldn't get out in the streets for a Black person. So I digress, right? And reparations, yes, Lord, reparations for these injustices. Reparations for how the family policing system has come in and torn families up. I tell my siblings, my Hispanics and my Latino siblings, we know about family separation. We can tell you about that there. I'm gonna leave my comments right there. Accountability, fidelity, and reparations.
I too would say that accountability has to be one of those main things, because if you can't be accountable for your actions and the choices that you choose to push upon people, then we're going to be in a circle, running in a circle. And also including the highlighting the cycles that we go through, and really being accountable about the cycles that people are being pushed into, whether we like it or not. And it's allowing us to also have that body autonomy. That's what has to be brought to the forefront. Body autonomy. People, you can't have health equity without having body autonomy, because you and anybody else has to have the choice to make whether what they want to do with their body. And the choices, those choices are things that have to be made and decided by that person, nobody else. Of course, family and whoever else is close to them, but ultimately these decisions are what we have and what we make, and it's a part of our story. So people taking away from it, forcing us into certain situations, like as far as with hospitals and having to be forced to go to a hospital to have a child. Back then, people didn't have a choice. You had your baby at home. That, like, prime example, the care that we want, we choose to have it, and it's our choice.
Thank you all. Excuse me. Thank you so much. And I really want to push a little bit more on this conversation around this work being professionalized. I think the reality is that a lot of us who do this work do stand in the way of liberation, and I want to talk about that. So I do pose this question to our audience members to kind of reflect, like, what is the work that you're doing or you're actively doing to help shrink the system and not sustain it? So as we talk through this, I'd love for you all to kind of think about that as well. And then for our panelists, I'd love to hear from you all about how we can disrupt the professionalization of this industry, and what would you want people who are doing this work to really understand, know, sit with, as we try to work towards liberation and abolition.
I'm like, oh, pick me, thank you. Um, first I want to recognize that when people usually use the term reform, is actually just sustaining a system that is dressed up as progress, right? So when people say reform, they're like, keep it where it is, let's just add some accessories to it, right? So if people don't understand what it means to abolish, then they don't understand what it means to center humanity. Whenever we're looking in this profession, we have to understand that we, including myself, in this industry, are making money off of those that are vulnerable. We are capitalizing on bodies, which is the American dream. I'm sorry, the American way, right? We have always capitalized on bodies. We just change it continuously. So I would really look to ask, and this is why I say I don't like to give letters behind my name, because it doesn't matter unless I'm actually doing something with those letters. It doesn't matter. When we are looking at this as an industry, we have got to get back to the roots of just looking at what terminology are we using. If we're using child welfare and not family policing, you're in the way of progress. If you're using mandated reporting instead of saying surveillance, state sanctioned surveillance, you're in the way of progress. And if this is the first time you're hearing these, that means you're probably not following a Black woman. So let's go back to our first lesson, right? So if we look at centering humanity, then we will take the profession out of making money, out of separation and selling and trafficking children, which is what has happened since they first arrived here, since the Americans arrived here. Understanding what does it mean for you to be in this industry? How are you shrinking it? How are you making it better? Understand that you saying that you're a liberal, that you voted blue, is actually more of a concern for me than it is if you said, I don't give an F about nobody, I just care about me. I support that so much more, because again, that's also activism that's wrapped up in something that is not real. So I really need people to either do their homework real fast, catch up, get ready for the test tomorrow, or get out of the way. Because I've heard many times from attorneys, well, I have to work within these boundaries. That's a profession that you chose. These families did not choose to be implemented and shipped off and sold. They didn't choose that, but you chose this industry. You chose this profession. So either make a change or get out of the way.
We can sit with that for a little bit until anyone else is ready to.
And I can keep it going if you, because I feel some type of way. I stopped teaching because of the hypocrisies within the educational industry. We shouldn't even have to pay money to even get an education that's outdated information that indoctrinates, I'm going to just put it out there, social workers.
Yeah, MJ. I think I shared this with some of you previously. But you know, as I consider myself a grassroots organizer, somebody directly impacted and was like, okay, what can I do? Let me find my people. Let me find the people who are experiencing the same things that I am, and let's organize and figure out how we support each other, how we support our communities. And I quickly learned that that is definitely not the way that others do their work. And it was never a positive in trying to work within the system. So, because those folks within the system would oftentimes try to bound us by whatever they were bound by within the system. For example, you know, we bail people out of jail to get them back with their families. And we had a situation where mama and father got locked up together. And so you know how the state will come in and even try to pit them against each other, try to have them saying negative things about each other, and they just wouldn't. And even trying to direct, well, you know, you can't support both of them to hell. Who says I can't? Yes, I can. 10,000 for this one. Let's get them out. 10,000 for mama. Let's get them out. And what? We're supporting both of them and through the entire case. And if that means I got to go meet with one separately and we got to do the other, then we just going to keep doing this. But you're not going to tell me how I can show up for my community. And that's what we have to, keep showing them and understanding. We need to understand what it is we are approaching. It is an industry. Thank you for helping me change my language. It is because I've been saying system. It is an industry that, when we look at it, capitalistic in nature, right? The whole way, ever since they caught us, and let's just say it hasn't changed. We are still those POWs, prisoners of war. Let's not forget that that's where our placement is. And so I definitely struggle with people who try to put us renegades into a box and tell us, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. No, we don't. We don't have to. And each one of us that takes ourselves away from that system, and every time we stand up and say that, no, that's not how we're going to do it. And every time we get creative, like our ancestors had to do, and figure the shit out, that's another notch towards liberation. That's another push towards liberation for us. And we better figure it out. Because if we look at what's happening now in the world, people who have never been impacted by a damn thing before are now crying because they feel a little bit of pain. Yeah.
I think that calling out, just saying how things look and how things feel to us is what's going to disrupt people professionally, especially taking that mask, taking that facade that people put on when they think that they're helping, being a social worker and all of these people within this industry, and allowing us to really hone in on that power. I can say that when I've utilized that tactic and been able to confront someone who seemed like a social worker, who seemed like they were supposed to be helping, and let them know, you're kidnapping my children, you're doing this, and letting the whole superior chain of command know that this is not tolerable. This is saying what it is, telling them they're kidnapping, telling them they're human trafficking. Those words hurt when it's somebody who is making a little bit of money off of them or making a lot of money. And they're like, oh, they're calling me this bad name and they want to give you pushback. And if you really hone in, like I said, hone in on that power, because the power is within all of us, especially a lot of the indigenous people who get taken and kidnapped by them, and all of the different things that go on within the industry for them to make money, allowing us to really say how we feel and own that will allow others around us to start sparking a fire. You know, when you light a match, and sometimes it may not start to like the flames aren't coming together, but if you strike another match, oh, it's going to explode. Things are going to explode. So allowing us to be the catalyst to speak up and change things around us, and allowing others to be able to speak up as well.
I would love to add in on that. You made me think, Mashay, thank you so much for saying that. Calling it out in its moment and in its time. For example, a concrete example. I was doing some work with some caseworkers that work for the Department of Human Services. And essentially, I got it to go all the way down as to them saying that I don't believe in the work that I'm doing, but I need health insurance. So my reframing was, so you're willing to sacrifice my community to get your teeth cleaned twice a year? That was my question. Or for an attorney that knew that she was not working as hard as she should have for a parent, and she said, I don't want to lose my job because I need health insurance because we are expecting our child. So I said, again, so you're going to sacrifice her baby so you can have a baby. Calling it out is so important. And this idea of passive aggressive culture that comes from whiteness or European Americans around their Thanksgiving table, that's not professionalism at all. It's in the way. Calling it out specifically, who are you sacrificing, will always be the question that I ask. Because if you're not sacrificing someone, then I should be seeing you sacrificed. And sacrifice can be your comfort. Sacrifice can be, I'm sorry, you don't get to pay for this cheap health insurance, but you know what? If we would have done what we were supposed to do, we should have some health insurance. But you're talking about these student loans and you don't want to stop doing it. But you know what? If you didn't hate Black people so much, we wouldn't have to pay for education, right? But you know what? If you, again, calling it out because the cat has been out of the bag. So if white-bodied individuals or European Americans are not able to look around and see, what's that Swift song? I'm the problem, right? If you're not able to see that, then you are in the way. Thank you, Mashay. Thank you for teeing.
I will say the industry almost got me, right? Like, I have a degree in human services. I thought I wanted my bachelor's degree in social work. And thankfully they made me do an internship. And why do y'all care about my internship? Because I saw exactly what the system was doing to people, exactly what people who were showing up supposedly to help were creating harm in every move that they made. And I was not with the Department of Human Services. I was with a diversion program that was supposed to be reuniting families together. But we had a case where both of the parents had a mental disability. They had already decided they were giving up that baby for adoption. I'm talking about the system did. It did not matter what they were going to do. It didn't matter how clean their house was. It didn't matter how much support they had. Them white people who had their baby was going to be able to adopt their baby. They were terminating those people's parental rights and not even telling them it to their face. They let them hope that they were going to get their baby back. And it's that kind of disrespect. It's that kind of just brushing off. It's that kind of like not even showing people the decency of recognizing their humanity that I didn't want to be a part of. And we talk a lot. I'll say for us in Mississippi, we talk a lot about mandated reporting, and that I believe I got this statement from the movement against family policing, but reports are not support. Reporting is not support. Like, that is not, and we try to go into social work spaces and say these things, right? So like at conferences, we're putting up panels talking about, reporting is not support. You don't have to snitch on folks because they had an abortion using pills at home. Like, you ain't got to write that in your reporting the way, like with the way that you're snitching. Snitching is not helping. So I'll just leave it there.
One note on the mandated reporting in teaching at the graduate level of social work students. I said, so you have all these degrees, all this information, all this education, and the only thing you learn how to do is pick up a phone? That doesn't even make sense. So we can't put all these degrees together and come up with a solution? The solution is going to always be fight poverty, fight racism. That's always the solution, right? That is always the solution. But the only thing you got out of this degree was to call someone. That says a lot about our industry of education. This is an industry.
Thank you. I am sitting with a lot of what you're sharing. And going off of that, as we work towards liberation and an abolition of the family policing system, can you share with us some of the work that you're all doing to support families in your communities and ways that you're disrupting the family policing system and making sure that kids stay with their families?
I would say for me, currently here in Maryland, we have a coalition that we started called Maryland Families Together. And within this particular coalition, we are finding resources within the community and bringing them to the forefront within the community, whether it's having events like Know Your Rights, and allowing them to be have that moment to speak with those attorneys, whether it's from the Office of Public Defenders or other attorneys who are more abolitionists, so that they can be aligned with someone and they're not getting the same cycle of getting that one person who wants to keep them signing service agreements and doing this laundry list of things. Also, just thinking about different things that the community needs, asking, really building trust within the community, asking, what does it feel like? What does it look like to build trust within the community within Baltimore? Also, we are just putting together different events, whether it's something that allows people to see the resources within that will end poverty. Like the Maryland Office of Public Defenders has a pre it's a pre-petition pre-petition what is it? A pre-petition like program that they have where they basically bring the resources to the community and say, hey, if you're met by CPS and they're asking you to do X, Y, and Z, give us a call. So we are connecting the community with those resources and allowing them to see that these resources are here. We just have to uplift them within the community so that we can avoid those moments where CPS is coming. Also, with the Black Mothers March, having an amazing group of people who are on the steering committee with me and allowing us to curate a march that is here and letting all of the impacted people know, hey, this is where we're coming. We come together one time out of the year to be the change. And that happens every year. Mother's Day weekend in DC. This year is May 11th, May 9th through the 11th. And we allow the community to experience what's going on so that we can come together and see other people who are changing things within the community, and organizing, and may not even know what to do. They can just get a feel of how it feels to be within community of people who just want everything to end. And just continuing to uplift the stories that are going on within our community, allowing people to feel safe and connect them with those resources that they may need within mental health, or if they have food scarcity, finding those individuals to partner them with, whether it's saying, hey, we're gonna go ahead and let you know that the farmers market is coming. If you have EBT or WIC, this is something that the farmers market is doing, where you can get matched with what you purchase from local farmers, and letting people know that there's a community here. We just need to use it, and we need to link together and not allow these people to come in and try to dismantle our community.
I can say for the Mississippi Reproductive Freedom Fund, we take multiple approaches to try to make sure people are avoiding family policing if at all possible, to reduce harm. That's why I always think of this as harm reduction work. So we utilize mutual aid to disrupt folks' interactions with the Department of Human Services. If they need X number of money, if they need to keep their apartment, if they need folks to come in and help them clean, we help with all of that. We run a little free pantry that's always, like always up and running. And people can request food boxes if they have like more needs than just what's out there. We have a period and diaper closet, period supply, I can't even talk today. Period supplies and diaper products. And that's not just for folks who have small children, which obviously that's important, but also you have people who are caregivers who need, adult diapers, adult products. We carry those things too. So I think there's little ways that each of us can disrupt this industry. It doesn't have to be like we were talking about professionalizing this work. It doesn't have to be some multi-million-dollar org where everybody has a PhD or everybody has a bachelor's degree. You can disrupt the system in small ways through your own actions and through support circles.
I have some slides that I'd like to show. And if I didn't mention, Real Justice Network is a reproductive justice survivor-led organization. Next slide, please. And we start our work by first coming together and doing dreaming and scheming, right? Coming together and talking and figuring out what it is that we're going to do together. Next slide. This is a really important part of our work, healing empowerment fellowship. In order, oftentimes we aren't given the opportunity to heal. We aren't given the opportunity to have mental health support. So we literally take that time with our community. We offer that to them. We give that to them. One of the girls in this picture had been shot 5 times, y'all, 5 times. Got up as soon as she could and kept moving with her kids. And I'm like, hold up. Hold up. And that was the first time that she was ever able to really I got shot, y'all. A person that I love shot me 5 times. And to be able to deal with that with a community of people who loved, cared, and supported her. And we were able to do so much healing with this program. Next slide, please. And we utilize a lot of ways to get in the community, okay? Because every method, you know, I might give a speech, yeah, but sometimes we need to get really creative. We will do a play. We will do spoken word, poetry. Many of us are creatives. We do art builds. We implement a lot of joy when we do our work because we think that's important. There's so much that comes at us that's so traumatizing. We really need to be able to have some joy in this work. Next slide, please. And this is the most important, going to get mamas out of jail and getting them back with their families, getting them back with their children, and sticking with them through their entire court case. Because it's one thing to throw some money down and do a bailout, but the real work is, I'm gonna keep you out, right? How are we gonna get through this court case? How are we gonna get your kids back from the state? All of those things. And so I love the bailouts. We do them, you know, we're constantly bailing people out. Next slide, please. Oh, more bailout work. More bailout. And then this right here, when we're talking about, you know, reproductive justice, it is important that we are, you know, fighting for abortion and bodily autonomy. Next slide, please. And making sure that our voices are heard. This is us taking to the street, shutting down huge financial district, and you know, letting our voices be heard. Reproductive justice is about everything. It's about every fight, right? It's about environmental issues that impact us more than other communities, with the dumping of with gas stations in our communities and the dumping of toxic waste in our communities. It's about everything. So if you come to one of our events, we're going to have a speaker from all of these different places, really bringing this together because all of these issues impact families. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm just talking shit. Next slide, please. And I like for you to put your attention to the sign in the back. This is my sibling, Envion, and the sign in the back says, "Our freedom comes from movements, not the courts." And why is that important? As I was mentioning earlier, this was something we did right before the fall of Roe. But we were energizing our base and letting them know, hey, the courts ain't never gave us shit. It has been us fighting with and for each other. It is our movement that is powerful, not the courts. Next slide, please. And so, to end that, reproductive justice is more than Roe. It's so much more than Roe v. Wade. Reproductive justice is about ending the criminalization of our families and ending the separation of our families. Reproductive justice is about leaving us the hell alone, right? And being able to have that real bodily autonomy, free from governmental interference, free from racism, discrimination. And let me not, because I didn't say this, for my trans siblings, LGBTQIA siblings, who are uniquely positioned in this fight, but often left out and forgotten and not spoken about, right? All the anti-trans legislation in Missouri in particular, but I know all across the country, right? All of this ties together because if you can come for us in this way, if you can come for us in this way and this right, everything else is in jeopardy. So this is our work. There's so much more I could talk about, but this is our work. Loving on our folks, being in spaces we need to be in, disrupting every damn place we can, and creating the spaces of safety that we need, free from them, and continuing the underground that has always existed to provide care when we are being criminalized like we are right now in the state of Missouri.
Thank you. MJ, do you want to share?
Yeah. You know, real social work does not look like centering your profession, centering yourself. Social workers don't even have degrees. There's a difference between a social worker and someone that has an MSW or a BS, right? So when you are a real social worker, like the Black Panthers, you're going to see a need in a community, you're going to identify it, and then you're going to be the solution to it. You're going to meet that need. I have been able to do that in the work that I do. I have a consulting firm that's an expert consulting firm. I'm an anti-racist case strategist, which means attorneys bring me on. I'm able to identify racism all up and down a case. And I'm one of the only experts in this nation that testifies specifically about the negative impacts of transracial adoption, system trauma, and keeping families together. That is what I do. And when people ask me, do you like what you do? I say no, because I shouldn't have to do it. I shouldn't have to do it, but I'm fucking good at it. I'm really good at it. So that's why I do it, because the community put me there and said, we need you to do it. But not only do they need me to do it, I also need a lot of other people to help me do it. So I created the only expert consulting firm in the nation that I know of, where everyone is a person of culture. So we have Black psychologists, we have a Colombian adoption specialist, we have a DV, domestic violence expert, we have an anger management expert. We have all of these different professionals that do their own thing. All I do is bring them on cases and say, let's bring in the social science of things and let's tell them the reason why they shouldn't be doing what they do. So that's my consulting firm, mjconsulting.services. And then understanding what Ms. Justice said, a part of the work that we do in the fight is the healing piece. That healing piece is so important. So I have a nonprofit that's called the MJCF Coalitions, For Us, By Us Industry. Those that have been impacted, families, aunties, uncles, grandparents, and the healing piece is that we have launched our love letters to stolen loved ones. And we have, and I host sessions where parents come to me that have lost the rights to their children and they write letters to them. And then kids that have been impacted and lost connection to their family, they also write letters to their lost family members. And what we do with that is we bring it together. Not only is a therapeutic piece, we're taking away the shame, we are taking away the power of the state. And we're saying that we are going to be the ones to actually tell the truth narrative, which is not that your parents were awful, your parents were terrible, but maybe your parents needed help. But the main thing is that you were stolen. That's the main narrative. You were loved, you were wanted, and you were stolen. So I hold these sessions in person. I went to my first one in person at a rehab place here for mommies in the state of Colorado. And I bring in coloring books and pencils, and they're able to draw their baby's pictures. They're either able to keep those letters for themselves. I still have a letter from my mom when I was in foster care. My mother's no longer with me. And that means so much. And people they couldn't even imagine how much me reading that letter 25 years later still makes me feel connected to my mom. So giving moms the space to start looking at the healing process of this phantom grief that they're going to experience and do it in a community is so important. We will publish these letters in books. This will be legacy work that is beyond me. And I do want to leave you with that piece, which is, what is your legacy? What is your legacy beyond your blood lineage? What is your legacy that you are leaving behind to make this world better? And to not actually be that person to bring in and extract more items and capitalize on people's trauma, because that is what we do. We capitalize on people's trauma. So I always say, nonprofit, I will never make money in nonprofit because everyone tries to continue to venalize parents, whenever 45% of all parents nationally that have a current open dependency and neglect court case was in foster care when they were children. So I knew that I was never going to receive money from any state, any federal, any government. And it goes back to when everyone is like losing their mind about losing money, there's a lot of us that never receive money, because the state and the government said that we're not worthy. But we know that we are worthy. So in contributing to the healing portion is one of the most important pieces that I could ever do within this industry. And it's an honor every time I'm in this space. I had one mother, and I do these virtually. She came from California, and she got online and she said, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know what to say. And I said, tell me about your boys. And she told me about them. And I said, what are their names? And she told me their names. And I said, what do they mean? And they were very specific, strong Somalian African names. And I said, that's what you write about. That's what you write about. So you can remind them who they are authentically and who they came from. And she did. And she sent me pictures. And that is how she was able to start her healing journey. So thank you so much. I really would love for everyone to, if you know a community that have had their rights terminated or children that have been taken away from their families, please do send them to my website. I hold these sessions. I do it virtually. I do it in person. I do it individually. There are some people that are not ready to be within community. So I'll do one-on-ones. Everything is therapeutic. We support each other with prayer because I'm going to tell you this right now. You're not an activist if you don't have some kind of spirituality that's keeping you going. It is a privilege to be an atheist and do this work. It's a privilege. We, those that are grounded in spirituality, we know that there's something bigger and better. And we have to pull up on that hope because we're not going to see it all the time in humanity. So we're going to see it in something bigger and better than us. So that piece is really important. What's grounding you in doing this work? What's your legacy going to be beyond lineage and money? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. As we begin to wrap up and have some time for Q&A, I'd love to hear from you all about your own grounding practices and sustainability as you do this work. We know it's really hard. It might get harder. It's going to get harder. And I'd love to hear if you can just spend a few minutes sharing some ways that you all practice self-care and sustainability, and then we can get into the Q&A. Because as you all said, healing and community care is just as important as doing this work as well.
I'll go. I crochet. Like, I call it rage crafting. People can tell tell how shit things have been by how many creations I'm posting on my social media. So if I've made a ton of washcloths, well, something must be pissing me off. I also spend time with my grandbaby and with my family, chosen and biological. There's something beautiful about taking time to play with kids, and there's something magical about how they can take you out of reality and back to being a kid and pretending and stuff like that. So I try to make time for that. Uh, you know, we do all kinds of stuff. Also, I collect Barbies, so she's always down to play with grandma's toys.
I would say for me, it would be therapy. My therapist is my girl. And just taking time out, holding myself accountable, holding my emotions accountable each week, speaking to her to reflect and to allow myself to be vulnerable and understand those emotions that I have and things that I'm trying to convey, because there's a lot of things that you may want to say to other people, but you may need someone to help you gather those thoughts and process those thoughts and be able to convey them to others in the best way possible. So spending time speaking to my therapist, spending time with my children, being within nature, that's one of my favorite things to do. And also eating really good food and spending time with my family, yeah.
What does justice do? Music is big for me. Definitely helps level me out, gives me what I need. My space has to be filled with music. I think a lot about my team that trusts me. They're so amazing, and I said I cannot be. I have to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, right? And so if I'm pushing mental health support, and just like Michelle, being a first aider for young people and adults, then I have to ask myself, am I doing this for my team? Am I doing this for myself? And so for the last 2 years, my team meets with a mental health therapist. Y'all seen them bailouts. Y'all seen them pictures. The work is weighty. And we always fighting with people for the right thing, though. It's hard to try to get people into that space. So it's having a space to be able to just talk and then be able to have that individual time. But I color as well, and I doodle and I play and I get real silly. Um, I'm an artist. And so I act real silly. We sing silly songs, we make up silly plays, and it feels really good to not have to worry about anything, to just be and have those moments. And always trying to recreate things like that for our community. We're going to have a carnival. I'm going to ask my cousin, girl, bring your food truck. Let's go out by the fountain, by the water. Let's bring some art supplies. Let's do an art build. Let's listen to some music, and let's just love on each other. So those are the kinds of things that I like to do. They bring me a lot of joy, and help me through, right? Help me make it through. And spirituality, yes, I'm a very spiritual person. I got my altar, I got all kinds of stuff. And I grew up in the church, so it's hard to but I really love some of the gospel songs that I do hear. I was just listening to Shirley Caesar the other day with her song about the little boy talking about, Mama, you owe me $14.75. And if anybody heard that song, you know that she says, for the 9 months I carry you growing inside of me, there is no charge. And so it's just things like that that just like speak to my heart. I engage with those things.
I am an older millennial, and the reason why I say that is because the thing that I feel as though we need to work on is ... without the guilt, right? So sleeping in without the guilt, taking an extra day without the guilt, not working all the time without the guilt. So I'm at the place where I'm doing those things, where I am exercising more. I love to ride my bike. I love to listen to music. And I want to do these things without the guilt. I want to be able to take a half day off without the guilt. So sleep is like my number one thing. I will be in bed at 8 p.m. You are not catching me in those streets past 8. So I'm on a patio having happy hour, some nice happy hour prices. It should be the real prices of food these days. So I'm doing happy hour on a patio from 4 until 5:30 or 6, and then sleeping and resting and trying to focus on doing that without the guilt. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Thank you. And thank you for reminding us how important it is to also take care of ourselves and take care of our community and, nurture our inner child, as Mache and Lori talked about, because we do this work for our families and our communities, and it's important. We got a few questions, and I'm gonna just start sharing them out, and whoever wants to answer, we can start that way. We got a few questions about mandated reporting. I'm gonna combine them, that way we can just have more of a thorough conversation around it. But someone asked about resources that mandated reporters can utilize to better understand what alternatives are available to them in situations where they are perceiving an unsafe situation in the moment, and also how mandated reporters can have conversations within groups or with individual people around surveillance, while also being a mandated reporter.
I do know that there is a group that's mandated reporters against mandated reporting that involves social workers, counselors, doctors, like everyone. So we should be able to send out that information. And then they have also so many resources. They have, there's many different articles that I think they've combined and given us like access to that. So I'm almost positive that we can send that out. So yeah, because I think we all know about that piece. Mandated reporters against mandated reporting. I think we can go to the next question. That's going to have all the answers, honestly. I mean, one thing I will say is to understand that fear lives within whiteness, okay? So if fear lives within whiteness and people are saying, if you don't do this, then this will happen, ... Surround yourself with people that are able to think creatively around businesses and institutions to say, but we can do it this way. Oftentimes people are indoctrinated into saying, if you don't report, then they're going to put you in jail. If you don't report, then they're going to do this. And you don't, and then go back to centering, who am I sacrificing, or am I making a sacrifice? Because I purposely sacrificed never obtaining a license, ever. I will never get a license as someone that holds multiple degrees, including an MSW. Will never get a license. I will never be policed, because getting a license also makes you, you are policed, and then you become the person that is policing. So surround yourself with people that are braver than you, smarter than you. And when you are around those people, then you will be able to be brave enough to say, oh, there are other ways to do things. That's what I say about like licensure, because that's why people do it. They do it out of fear, the majority of the time.
And I'd also encourage people to really take a look at the so-called laws that are requiring this. Like, a lot of the time, the language might say that they have the discretion to make that call. And if you have that discretion, like, use it in a way that's not harmful. Really reflect on what resources you can provide the person that you're speaking with. Not everything warrants a call. We don't need, and again, like, uplifting what MJ was sharing about that fear. That fear was taught. That fear was something that we were told in schools, that if we didn't do this, we would get in trouble. But to what degree? What harm are you causing when you have that fear?
And I'll just add, be mindful of how you write case notes. Right? Like, I mean, I feel like that's so obvious, but I want to make sure I state it. That, like, be mindful in how you word and write case notes. This is something that a lot of folks are working with doctors around too, around doctors that are seeing people who have self-managed their abortions, and they need to be careful how they put those things into records. So people won't need to call if, when, how, because they in jail.
I would say, to piggyback off of that, the thing about actually putting the verbiage inside of case notes is something that a lot of people, there's like a post that is going around this on social media, this doctor who is saying, yeah, like, blatantly, the verbiage that is being placed in, whether it's medical records or case notes, is something that is being used differently, whether it's with Black and Indigenous people or with white people. And another thing is going locally within the policies and procedures of the Department of Human Services. They give you play-by-play the verbiage that they use, especially when it comes to court documents. Those court documents, when it says it's contrary to the welfare of the child, that's something that is learned, that's that key part that they use to be able to kidnap people's children. So if the language seems like you're getting a little bit like too, you're getting too, like you feel like you're teetering, like whether or not you're doing something right or wrong, I would say don't use the verbiage. Stop using the verbiage. That's going to be something that disrupts the community and the professionalism within others, because once you stop using that verbiage, then others are going to be able to say, okay, well, she didn't use that verbiage and that outcome didn't happen to the families. And it shows that those cycles have stopped with using those words, creating those spells upon families.
I'll add a little tidbit to this, and I think it's important that mandated reporters, if that's what you're doing and you're trying to sidestep and figure out how to not cause harm, develop and maintain good relationships with community organizations. Start figuring out who you can pivot to support this person with what they need. I just got a call the other day from public defender's office in Boone County, because they know me, and they'll know I'll come and do something to help. They needed somebody to get transportation for somebody who's about to get out of jail, but they cannot get released without going into a bed first. So this person has literally been held for months because of a bed and transportation. So what is justice about to do? About to pay for transportation. And so those things, then that person can go on and get what they need and not have to be so involved in the system. So for people, and the other thing I will encourage you to do is try to find an exit plan, because at some point you're going to become sick. Okay, you cannot join it as a well person, join into a sick system and think you're not going to catch a cold. You're going to get the flu. Okay, and you're going to have to make that decision. You're going to have to do that, lest you're going to begin to contribute to the problem. So decisions and choices have to be made.
I want to piggyback on that. I would tell my students, you don't know how to fight the industry unless you know how the industry works. So if you're going to work in the industry, get in as a spy. That is your job. Your job is to spy. See how things work, see how things operate, use their language against them, but you get out. What ends up happening is that people think, again, I can have good health insurance. Get the idea of a retirement just out of your head right now. Honestly, if you are in your 30s and under, just get that idea out of your head that you're going to invest in a company that's going to invest in you. That is not a thing. So understand how it works, understand how it operates, get out. Because what ends up happening is your reputation precedes you. So if you're known to do what you do for 15, 20 years, no one's going to trust you if you've never been on the other side to support the community and not centering the community, because we know why you stayed. There's no way you stayed because you believed in any of that. Because after about 3 years of drinking that Kool-Aid, exactly like what Ms. Justice said, you get ill. It does not feel right at all. You cannot work through that. And it is not worth it to have health insurance and getting your teeth cleaned. It's not worth it to sacrifice others on your behalf. You are doing the opposite of what you say you believe in anyway. So if you're in it, get out of it. There is no such thing as I'm going to change the system, because it is not a system. It is a business that makes billions of dollars a year off of sacrificing others. Do not be that naive, because it is not cute anymore to be that naive. We know how much money goes into it. We know that there's a dollar sign attached to every child and family. And with every misdiagnosis of that child, it increases the value of that child because they're damaged goods. Do not play. We are done. Get out of the industry, because you know what helps it shrink? If there's no one in it to work it. You know how you get off the plantation? There's no one able to run the plantation. Get out of it. There is no excuse. You can have higher morals and work at a grocery store and make almost the same amount if you really plan. So thank you, Justice.
Thank you all. I want to be mindful of time. Thank you all so much for joining us, for sharing with us, and for being vulnerable and transparent with us about your own experiences and the work that you're doing, and for encouraging us to continue doing this and fighting hard and fighting bravely. I do want to let everyone know that this was just the first of our webinar series, and we will be having another webinar on May 20th on disrupting the criminalization of birthing people who use drugs. So it'll be a very thorough conversation on how to continue doing this work. We will drop the registration link in the chat. You will get an email soon with the recording of this webinar and some information about the next webinar as well. Again, thank you all for joining us, and I hope we see you again in May. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having me, y'all.